Three friends, one amazing series of YA novels, an insatiable thirst to relive the glory that is K.A. Applegate's literary masterpiece. This is Fanimail, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles.
Hello and welcome to the Dork-Bajir Chronicles, a podcast where we read through the Animorphs series one book at a time, then talk about it every week. Today we'll be talking about the television series, episodes 14 and 15, called The Leader Part 1 and Part 2. We're just going to talk about two episodes today because they're basically the same story.
We can't stretch this content into two episodes. We're not
really.
the Animorphs. We're not the Animorphs TV series writers. We're not that desperate.
My name is Mikhail, the host.
I'm Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Braden, the newbie.
And we're joined once again by...
I'm Jared, and I just woke up from a nap.
Hell yeah.
Nice. Jared is our TV expert for anyone who hasn't listened to our other TV episodes. I recommend you go back to listen to them just because it's largely just us being mad at the show, but also Jared is a delight to listen to. So.
Oh, Mikhail. You're going to warm my little heart.
Speaking of listening to people other than us three, let's jump into some...
Fanimail! Ooh, yeah! Fanimail! Ooh, yeah!
First piece of fan mail comes from @CodeMonkey85, who reminds anyone interested in still spending money on the Animorphs TV show that it is only $2 US if you have an Amazon, or like it's on Amazon, per season, $2, which seems pretty fucking cheap. I bought this season on my country of origin's Google Play, and it was not $2. Let me tell you that much. It was way more than that, which seemed outrageous.
But now you've fallen in love with the show, and it's totally fine. It's a well-justified purchase.
Yeah. Well, I thought maybe watching it the like proper full resolution would make it like seem a little bit better, and it totally is not. So like,
resolution is not the problem with this show, Mikhail.
The next piece of fan mail comes from classic Fanimail contributor @MoviePolls, and this is a callback to our last sort of set of TV episodes where we described if the Animorphs were crackers, what crackers would they be? And I just wanted to give a shout out to MoviePolls for joining in. There were a lot of people who joined in, actually. I'll probably shout out over the course of these next few episodes, but yeah, that cracker odyssey lasted quite a while. MoviePolls' tweet is, "This is now a cracker podcast. Crackermorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles. Join us as we discuss crackers every week and in our bi-weekly episode, How Crackers Are Reproduced. I'm McCracker. This is Cracka, the expert. That's Crack Den, a literal den of crack."
Which is like, I mean...
That makes sense.
Movie Polls really gets us.
Truly, yes. Yeah, let's jump into it. So this is two episodes. They were both, if I'm not mistaken, they were both written and directed by the same people. And the director was Sean Levy, so no Will Fruitt on these ones.
What's the goddamn point?
I know, right? Classic Will Fruitt episodes coming up, though, I think. The writers were Jessica Scott and Mike Wolliger, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing wrong. And these were released on both January 5th and January 12th of 1999, so 20 years ago. We decided also, in order to put the pressure on, Jared's doing all the summaries for the TV show episodes now. We're not going to. Also, it helps me not have to remember them, because it causes me physical pain.
Can I add, if these came out in 1999, that's the literal same goddamn year that Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, was filming, so this show has no excuse.
They had the technology.
They had the technology, and instead we got this. Alright, so, to start off this episode, we get Vista 3, our cut rate Kevin Spacey, staring intently at a beetle and describing how they hunt.
Cut rate Kevin Spacey before actual Kevin Spacey was cut rate Kevin Spacey.
What, you didn't see that creepy-ass YouTube video that he posted?
Oh, of course. It was a hot topic of debate over the Christmas dinner table.
Eugene Lubinsky should put out a video just like that, but it's like him heavily referring to himself as Visser 3. Yes.
Be right back.
They say I did terrible things to children. The thing is, I wish I did.
Oh, God.
I hate
Anyways.
everything. Yeah, staring intensely at a beetle. He's describing how they hunt, which I'm no beetle expert, but I don't think that's how they hunt. He just starts yelling. He's like, they know about fear. They are scared. They know small creatures are scared. And it's just, he's heavily alluding that he's going to eat this fucking beetle.
I thought he was going to munch on that beetle like a cracker.
I want him to eat that beetle so bad.
His eyes wrote a check that his gob couldn't catch. Cash.
It's just, it's painful.
Yeah.
And while he's doing this, the unnamed scientist number 2 is behind him tinkering with what looks to be a garage door sensor, which he reveals to Visser 3 to be a morphing sensor. So he can detect when people are morphing. Visser does this by half-ass morphing his Andalite form, essentially just making himself blue and giving him, like, subdermal like head implants that you see on, like, super body-modified people.
Mm-hmm.
And the little monitor freaks the hell out. And then he picks up this roach. He picks it up, and it's like an inch from his mouth.
It's so close.
And
it's
it's
just
like,
like,
I am on the edge of my fucking seat.
eat the beetle.
Yeah.
Eat the beetle.
Yeah, but no, he doesn't do it. He doesn't do it. And I'm still mad about it. We then cut to Marco and his dad. Looks like they're renovating their house. And I don't think any of them have ever done anything like this before, even though I'm pretty sure that's Marco's dad's job, isn't it?
I mean, he's a scientist. At
Oh,
least
wait, I
in
thought he
the-
was like...
No, he's a computer engineer.
He's a computer engineer.
Oh, right.
At least in
Yeah,
the book.
okay, I remember that.
I
Never
mean, he
mind.
did work as a janitor for a bit when he was in a deep depression, but like,
Yeah.
as we
Maybe
know
that's what I
in
was
the exposition about to come up, he just clawed out of that.
He did, and him and Marco have like, got like everything moved, and they got the tarps
Me
on
and
the
Marco's
ground.
dad have that in common, working as janitors through our deep depression.
Aw.
Oh, Jesus. Brighton, that's dark as shit. I love it.
Ooh.
Marco's dad then takes the last painting off the wall and says, do you remember this? And it shows this hand turkey that Marco apparently drew when he was like 5, which is the exact same height as his hand now, being 13. So I'm
13 or 30. These teens are of undiscernible age.
like, I don't know how old they're supposed to be. I don't know, that's your guys' job. I just watched the show. So, and his dad's like, they're essentially just being like, I miss my mom, which I get it, but I don't care. I want to see you turn into animals and beat up aliens.
Is this the first episode where we really find out that Marco's mom is tragically dead?
No.
He told us in the first
He
episode.
kind of, but this is like the one where they get
I'm pretty sure that was like the
emotionally
first
into it.
thing that we heard about Marco. Like, hi, my name's Marco. My mom's dead.
Oh yeah, I remember making all those jokes about it.
Yeah.
Here we go.
And, like, I like to think he just has that to, like, every pizza delivery guy that comes up. He's like, hi, Marco, here's Marco. My mom's dead.
Just to see if he gets a discount.
Anyways.
There's a weirdly pornographic scene where Marco and his dad decide they get some paint on each other and they decide to rub paint all over each other. Oh, no, we're all dirty. And then they take off their shirts and
Yeah.
they wrestle and it's awful.
No, that doesn't happen. Why are
It
you
happens,
lying
Greg.
to our audience?
It happens.
Why did they do that? It was like a food fight, like playful, but with paint.
And the music in the background is really what made it kind of go towards the bow, 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 like.
And at one point, like kind of near the end, you see Marco's dad pick up the whole can of paint and dump it on Marco. I'm like, that's not how these things work.
Paint is expensive. Why are you wasting $55?
It's like an entire can too. It's like normally these are like playful. It's like, oh, I flicked a little paint at you. You didn't just win the Super Bowl, and that is not a tub of Gatorade.
I mean, there's also the issue of like health. Like, it's extremely bad for you to be around that many like paint fumes all at once.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not the best. Maybe that's why like Marco's a little bit weirder in the next scene we see him in, because he's just lit on paint fumes.
Yeah. Meh.
We then cut to Jake back at his house, and Jake is high as shit on angel dust and drumming on everything. That's how we get introduced to him in this episode. He's did a bookshelf helmet on my computer on the window. Here's my shelf, and I put the drumsticks away.
That's what casual 90s kids do, Jared. Jesus.
Just hanging fast and loose and being cool and casual.
Just drumming on my stuff, man. It's how I live. He leans out into the hallway. The phone's ringing. Tom picks it up. And this is like the perfect time for Tom to have like kind of covered his track to be the shitty older brother. But it's like, oh man, you're so totally a yerk at this point. Because he's like, he just smiles. He's like, it's for me. Whereas if he were like a normal person, he'd be like, hey, shitwad, get back in your fucking room. Phone's for me.
Right?
It's like, oh, you're so yerkin.
If only they could swear on this show, then it would just be so much more realistic with dealing with all of the teens.
Teens swear.
I've got a funny feeling that Marco would just yell cunt too much.
What? We're so not even like 5 minutes into this. All right.
If it helps at all, like, not much else happens in this episode, so we'll
That's
be
pretty
fine.
true.
Jake decides to morph into Homer in order to eavesdrop on Yerk Tom's call. Tom says something about the new Kandrona being ready.
At the EGS tower.
At the EGS tower, of course. And Tom then looks out the window and sees Homer outside and is like, yo, what's up with this?
Homer was just in my room. I gave him a piece of paper to play with.
I don't know what that is, because Jake spits it out in a second, and I still don't know what it is.
It looks like floppy American cheese. Like,
Yeah.
why would you give that to a dog?
It seemed at first like it was a rawhide or something, and then
Yeah, or like a note?
yeah, like a piece of paper, and then later it was like totally, but not even. It wasn't even like soft like American cheese is. Like it was almost like it was a silicone. Have you seen those things that you use to like grip the top of a jar to open it?
Oh,
better?
yeah. Like a thick silicone square.
Yeah.
It was weird
Gross.
stuff, but like he walks into Jake's room and he's like, "Were you all here the whole time or something like that?" And Jake was like, yeah.
Did you see Homer inside?
And so he spits it out, and it's just this weird, almost perfectly square, floppy piece of something, which looks disgusting. We flash forward to the rest of the Animorphs have all grouped outside the EGS tower.
No, first Jake goes to visit Marco. And we get a really emotional moment where Marco is out of focus the whole time.
Right.
What the fuck, right?
Oh, man.
And they're like, Marco's essentially just like, count me out. And I just kept thinking, I'm like, I don't think it works that way, bud. And so essentially he's like, oh, we gotta go stop this Kandrona. And he's like, no, I'm all my dad has. We're just like, buy him a dog. Like, tell him to start dating. Christ. And essentially Marco has this heartfelt moment that he tries his best to act, but can't quite pull it off. And it's also partially because whoever the fucking cameraman was did not realize how out of focus Marco was this whole time, because he keeps cutting back between Jake and Marco. Jake, totally fine. Like, an average shot, but you cut back to Marco and it's like 6 pixels out of focus.
Yeah.
Looks awful.
Yeah. Oh, and then Marco tells the really touching story about how his mom would always tell him the first part of a riddle before she went on a boat.
Yeah.
And then come back and tell him the answer, and then she took the boat out and died, and he never learned the answer.
That is a very interesting piece of writing that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I thought that was like weirdly good for what was actually happening in this episode.
For like, especially comparative to the rest of the 13 episodes now that we've watched.
Yeah, and then the way it pays off at the end is like not. Like it's like they come back to it and it does not pay off at all.
No, it does not.
No, it's a bit of a bummer. So we have that little sad moment, quote unquote sad moment. We then cut to the outside of the EGS tower. The rest of the Animorphs are there. By rest, I mean Cassie and Rachel.
And Jake. Jake's there too.
Well, yeah. But yeah. Anyway, they're outside. Everybody except for Marco is there. And Cassie and Rachel are like, where's Marco? He's not coming, guys. And then Rachel just like more or less confesses her undying. I wish he was here. I'd have him here right now. I know I don't. I'm like, whoa, all right, this is a fucking change.
Yeah, it's very like, it's a very flirty way to say that she wishes he was here. and then he appears. And they, like, playfully punch each other in the shoulder. And it's like, girl, what are you doing?
No. He gives her a little chin flick.
Oh, right. Oh.
Yeah.
And it's the most overtly sexual...
overtly sexual thing since the paint fight.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
What happens next, Jared? Please.
Next, they break into the EGS tower, and they're like, wasn't that a little easy? It's like, yeah, no shit, because you guys aren't trying to be sneaky at all.
They're wandering
Monsters walking, clomp, clomp, clomp. We're the Animorphs, and we're here to help!
Oh my god, wait, we forgot to mention the best part of the intro. Aside from Visser 3 looking like he was going to launch a beetle, he tells this scientist Lackey Boy to put the sensor in all of our sensitive areas.
Yeah. That was probably the best part of the episode, honestly.
You didn't say it right, though. It's place these devices in our most sensitive areas.
Like, he definitely means the taint.
Like he
definitely.
enjoyed saying that. Like, let's get real.
Yeah.
You enjoy saying it a lot. So they're quote unquote sneaking into the AGS building. They're like, oh, maybe this giant room with the red LED lights is where the Kendrona beam is. So they walk into there.
Well, first this is when they finally morph out of their human
lizards.
form. Marco and Jake morph lizards, and Cassie and Rachel stand guard as teenage girls.
You know, how you do.
Exactly.
So angry.
I like how much of this show just, like, sucks because the real answer to why it sucks is because they don't have money to, like, make the animals do stuff. Because really, why on earth are they not in morph in this part? It's like money.
Yeah.
It's the only reason why.
There's zero contextual reason why they can't be in morph, why they shouldn't be in morph here.
That's why I want it to be an animated show. Because you can just have them in animal form and emote the animals, and it will be fine. You don't have to pay a lizard wrangler to dump the lizards on the ground and hope they run in the right direction.
Or stick them on the ceiling, as we learn later.
So they go there. There's a giant, what looks to be a huge air conditioner in the middle of the room, and we see on the other side of the fence, there's the Kendrona beam just kind of like shining down on nothingness. And so Jake, they walk around to look at the fence to get closer to the Kendrona, and Jake touches
They're
a plastic
now.
tube. Yeah, they've morphed back to human, or demorphed back to human. And Jake touches the plastic pipe coming from the giant AC unit and goes, ah! He's like, oh no, it's hot. It's cold. Even extreme cold can feel hot to the touch.
No, even extreme heat can feel cold to the touch.
It's
like,
it doesn't matter.
Either way, it's dumb. This is
really
obviously
bad.
a plastic thing that you put on your dryer to have the dust go outside.
That sentence made me... I had an aneurysm.
Yeah, it was... Not only was it confusing, the pipe, like, being so fucking shitty completely robs it of all gravity. Like,
and it, like, is wiggling as he touched it.
Jake touched it with, like, his fingertips, and you see the thing going, wah, 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 wah.
it's clearly a dryer tube. Like, it's
a dryer tube that, like, is painted black.
Yeah.
It's so awful. And then, like, this doesn't even pay off, because then later one of the Yerk boys ends up touching it, and nothing happens.
Yep.
It's like, what?
But, I forgot to say, when they morphed into lizard to get into the room, the morphing sensor above the door went off. So everything kind of goes apeshit once they get into the room, and all of a sudden, these four walls close in around Marco and Jake, and they're like, what's happening? And outside the door, Rachel and Cassie are like, oh no, what's going on? And like the door starts rattling and freaking out. So what does Rachel do? She grabs a fire extinguisher and hits the middle of the door a bunch.
They're also screaming, Jake, Marco, are you okay? Marco, Jake, are you okay? Like, cool.
And it's like,
Great.
shut up. Those are your secret friends.
Jake, my blonde cousin, who's brother to Tom, who goes to this school. Are you okay?
We're related through my brother. Or for your brother, what is it? Your dad is my mom's brother. Just as many personal details as possible. It's good.
Should I meet you back at your house, 1443 Elm Street?
Hey man, you don't know that's their address.
I do, though.
I mean, now we do.
I
Jared is Visser 3 is Dork-Bajir canon.
That was gonna be the final reveal for the series finale, Mikhail. But thanks, dog.
Way to step on his toes,
You
dog.
ruined it.
You should see this man eat crackers in bed. Oh, he can't get enough. He's a regular Visser. The way the camera zooms around as Marco and Jake spin and look at all of the walls closing in on them
Is super disorienting.
It's so long. It happens for such a long time.
I have motion sickness. Like it's playing right now in like the background, and I'm motion sick right now. It's
I
terrible.
don't understand why they felt that was even really necessary. Like, I don't think it conveys the thing that they're trying to convey.
Sometimes this show just kind of
Mostly because I
experiments.
don't know what the fuck they're trying to convey here.
I feel like sometimes the cinematographer just experiments with whatever stuff. Like, remember that one episode where Jake and Marco kept stealing the same fry from each other, and the camera was just zoop, 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 really fast the whole time? It's like,
That
okay,
was great, actually.
did you just... I think the cinematographer just graduated and wants to, like, put
I'm
his
an
cool
artist, you see.
stink on it,
That's
right?
why you hired me onto this
Sometimes it works, like
his
the French
Canadian
fry.
TV series with a budget of $29.
$20 for the tiger, $9 for the crackers.
For literally everything else.
For the crackers, they actually had an extensive cracker budget.
The behind-the-scenes features is that beetle was actually just a painted cracker, and he was supposed to eat it. He was supposed to shove it right up his foot.
He's supposed to eat the beetle and just be like, it's not as good as crackers. And I'll go from there.
Also, the idea of a painted cracker is very funny to me for some reason.
A cracker painted to look like a roach.
It's cheaper than actually buying a roach.
Listen, we can't have this episode also be entirely cracker content.
It's a little late, bud.
I'm also leaning towards the opposite of that.
So Rachel grabs the fire extinguisher and beats the shit out of the door, which apparently makes it open for whatever reason.
Apparently.
She goes in, and Cassie touches the floor, and she goes, the floor's hot. It sounded like a rocket taking off, and at this point, I wanted to harm myself.
Only at this point?
I mean, just the rest of it is just like a general want to harm myself. In this case, I wanted to get myself an ice pick and lobotomize myself.
Yeah, this is super bad.
Oh.
But then they hear the Yerks are coming, so they want to escape. But they should not worry too much because, as we know from a cut to the security desk, all the security guard has is another one of those, like, morphing detectors blinking. There are no video cameras in this building at all.
No traps other than the highly intricate rocket. Not even like...
There's not even a camera on the rocket. It's just a little box with a window that leads into space.
A very oddly shaped window, might I add. It looks like the Wu-Tang Clan symbol.
Yeah, actually, it super does.
Yo, Visser 3 ain't nothing to fuck with.
Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with.
We cut to Marco and Jake, who are now in a rocket. They open up the main viewing screen. They're like, oh no. And Marco, who was so against even going in his own town to this EGS building, is now surprisingly okay with being on a rocket flying through space.
Actually, yeah, he's like, doesn't he at one point tell Jake to calm down? And it's like, buddy, I would be having like a fucking panic attack at this point.
He's like, I plan to go out with a smile. I'm like, that's a fucked up way to look at this.
Yeah, it seems like he has like a psychotic break. Like it's like a totally different director took over at this point and was like, you know what? Put your little stank on it. Like maybe he's not scared of dying in the vacuum of space. Anyways, go ahead.
So Marco is then like,
Oh no, but doesn't it cut off here at the crazy cliffhanger where they're
No, not yet.
No,
there's a
that's not
cliffhanger
yet.
later.
That's not yet.
Yeah.
So the Yerks were on their way, so Cassie and Rachel decided they're like, we gotta get out of here. So they duck into an event with this building with the cleanest event work I've ever seen. But they go and they get to like a little junction where they have to jump across, and Cassie is freaking out. She's like, how are we gonna get across there? And I didn't notice this in the first, couple of cuts.
I think because they had it out of frame, and then when Rachel jumps, you see the ledge is only literally 2 feet away from the other ledge.
And Rachel's like, I make jumps like this in gymnastics all the time. I'm like, well, yeah, I fucking hope so. Otherwise you have a very boring gymnastics career.
Like, Cassie, just literally fall forward and you'll land on the platform.
It's such a weird thing to, even be a discussion because it's clearly, a prop stage. They didn't need to make it that close in that shot.
No.
Well, and they didn't even need to have it at all because then the girls decide to turn back and go fuck up with the Kandrona. Why do they even have this ledge moment?
It's to show that they're bonding.
Yeah, it's true. It's to give them something to do.
Yeah,
it's to give them an extra 3 or 4 minutes of screen time. You really got to fill out that 22-minute slot in TV.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was a contractual thing where it was just no, we told Nadia or whatever Cassie's actor's name is we told her you have to have 30% of the screen time or something like that.
Yeah, these are the main 4, and then Axe and Tobias are whatever, and they'll fill in as needed.
Also, yeah, no Axe, no Tobias in this episode at all.
No. It is briefly mentioned when they're crouched in front of the EGS building that Axe and Tobias are, quote, laying low.
Laying low?
And it's I think you literally just didn't want to deal with a hawk and a puppet.
Or a hawk and whatever the fucking kid who plays Axe is.
Yeah.
He's very method when
certainly
he
not a
becomes
human
an alien.
being.
Definitely not a human being.
So the episode ending, Marco and Jake,
they morph as they approach what we find out to be the Yerk mothership. They sneak their way out. They kind of end up hiding behind a bunch of barrels, and they see a whole fuck ton of people in beige pantsuits.
They're basically Boyle's family members aboard this. From Brooklyn Nine-Nine, all of the Boyles are on this spaceship.
And
wearing beige.
I forgot to mention that we know where the entire budget for this episode went. It went into one 3-second shot of the ship docking on the mothership.
Oh man, it was straight from fucking Independence Day.
Yeah, Braden pointed out it looks exactly like the Independence Day ship.
I think they just stole it.
No, I think you're right, Braden. They definitely stole it.
It's awful.
It was just one of those where a visual novel just takes a photograph someone else has taken and they just muss it up a little bit with a watercolor effect in Photoshop, and they're like, this is my original art for my game. No one can take it from me. That's what they did for the Independence Day movie, was just take stills from that movie and pixelize it and then put it into their TV show.
Yeah, so they're hiding behind a bunch of barrels. The entire pantsuit army has gathered around to hear Visser 3 speak. And then we're introduced to Visser 1, who is dun dun dun
Janet from Friends.
Basically.
She comes out and she's
Marco's
like,
mom.
oh my god.
It's Marco's mom. And Marco immediately is like, ah.
Which is weird, because I didn't get that from the books. This is an original twist. They came up with this highly original TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thankfully, that's the end of this episode.
And the second episode is, Marco is immediately going to jump out from behind the barrels, and Jake's like, what are you doing?
You dumb shit, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Stop.
And Marco's like, what? And Jake's like, that's your mom. And Marco's like, yeah, I know.
Thanks, dude.
You don't have to tell me twice.
Yeah, I love it. He steps on his line, immediately. He's just like, that's your mom. And I was totally expecting Marco to be like, what? Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
I was staring at my mom. My dead mom, who's now alive.
And a yerk.
And a yerk. Oh, so then Visser 3's lackeys have to come and tell Visser 3 and Visser 1 that, because we don't have any fucking cameras on this very expensive Earth to the mothership rocket trap, the Andalites have somehow morphed and escaped.
I don't know how, but they somehow managed to get away from our flashlight guns.
Oh god, the fucking Draken beams are so blatantly in this one flashlights. Especially watching it at the higher resolution, which is
man.
barely higher. It was like looking at those flashlights, it was just like, this is clearly from fucking Canadian Tire. Like
know.
just $5 flashlights.
It's like my dad had that exact flashlight.
I think, I think I do actually recognize, because this was filmed in Canada. I think I recognize the brand of flashlight. They didn't even get, like, that color of flashlight. They painted it, because I know that brand of flashlight only came in, like, multiple colors.
It's
Yeah.
so they painted it and then slapped they slapped a sight on it, and they're like, it's a gun.
It's the Draken beam.
It's a Draken beam.
You see how a light has a beam? This is a Draken beam. Draken is just the Yerk word for flash.
Wait, then they're flash beams?
They're flash beams.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, so they're like, the Andalites have escaped, and the dude who has to tell Visser 3 is about to die because all of their pantsuits are buttoned up to the very, very top.
And this guy, they got him a shirt that's like 5 sizes too small.
He's like, the Andalites have escaped!
Like, you're a grown man. Can you wear this 12 to 13-year-old shirt buttoned to the top?
You were the last one to show up, so this is the shirt we have
This
left.
is the only one. We thought we would have more kid volunteers to be Yerks. So Visser 3 and Visser 1 both scowl, and Visser 1 just like scowls and buries her chin into her neck, which is a weird look.
She does a lot of weird looks in this episode.
Her whole facial range is
It's not good.
artistical choices, I'll say.
Artistical choices.
Hey!
Ooh, nice
zing.
one.
Hot
Burn.
dang.
So good. That was
Burn on you,
excellent.
actress from 20 years ago who has probably never done anything else.
I mean, for all we know, she did become Janice from Friends.
I'm pretty sure I
This
know
is
she
before
wasn't.
Friends came out.
And no, it wasn't even.
No,
Shut up.
this was after Friends, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think
Didn't Friends
started,
end in
like-
99?
No, Friends ended in 2004 after 10 seasons.
Okay.
So.
Alright, but then we get this weird, like, minute-long filler of Cassie and Rachel just chilling in a vent junction that's big enough for 2 people to sit in.
And it's also really well lit.
Yeah. And they don't really say anything. They're just like, I hope I don't look like Jake. And that was about it.
Yeah, it was something, what, Cassie said something about, like...
Like, you're sounding like our leaders. Like, if you say I look like him, I'll cut your fucking throat, bitch.
It's like, yo, okay. Yeah, because this is when they jumped the ledge, and they decided, okay, we have to do the scary jump back, because we're going to bust up some Kandrona.
Yeah.
Now we're going to chill in
Yeah.
this vent for a bit, talk about how it sucks that we can't morph, because they've put morphing detectors on all their most sensitive areas.
Our most sensitive areas.
Oh, fuck. We then cut back to the Yerk mothership, and Visser 1, her host apparently had a green thumb, so Visser 1 just has a ton of plants on this mothership.
Because it's easier to control the host if she's happy, so you distract her with some flowers so she doesn't remember that she's...
I realize we're trying to kill everybody, but look at this pretty daisy.
I realize you're a complete slave, but flowers.
You like flowers, right?
Let's mist the fern.
Christ.
But Visser 3 walks in, he just fucking rips a bit of his
You like
fern
these
off.
weeds, and he like tears it down.
Like,
It's like,
whoa,
oh dang,
that's
son.
your boss.
It's a power move.
That's your boss.
All this time, Marco and Jake are morphed into lizards again and are stuck to the ceiling directly above Visser 1's head.
Yeah.
I think there's some exposition here, but I don't remember what the fuck it was.
It's like talking about how Visser 3 better not mess up, and like Visser 1 has the plans to calm the host, and you would do well to learn from these humans, and Visser 3 is like, what do humans have to teach me? And then, yeah, Marco and Jake fuck off and try to find a pod ship to escape.
And we also realize that there is so much, like, hate fuck energy in this room when they're together.
Oh, God. Yeah. if this was like any kind of adult show, those two would have boned on that bed of plants.
Yeah. That or like Visser 1 would have clawed the face off of Visser 3. Either one I would have been happy with.
Yeah.
Instead, nothing happens and they just walk away. Because that's how this show goes. Womp womp.
Well, and then we cut back to Rachel and Cassie, and they find the Kandrona.
And they're like, how do we stop this? And Rachel's just like, wrenches, dog.
Well, Cassie touches the same tube that Jake touched, and it's like, oh, it's cold.
Wrenches. Wrenches. Homie wrenches.
Homie, wrenches, dog.
Well, because
we got this shit.
Because the pipe is cold, she's like, oh man, they must be trying to cool this air conditioning unit.
And I like that she was like, well, why do they need that? It's like, if they didn't need it, if they didn't need to be cooled, they wouldn't have this. And Cassie's, oh, right, yeah. Sorry.
Like, but none of it makes sense. Because then they're hitting the wrenches on, like, the metal side. Why aren't you using the wrenches to rip down any of
Tessa,
the
obviously,
piping?
you don't know anything about plumbing. Hot can be
true.
cold. And cold can be hot.
Don't you know?
Sorry, guys. I guess
That's
I read
plumbing
too fast.
day one, babe. Come
Yeah,
on.
God. Books
Like
are
you
art,
didn't
hot as
pay
cold.
any attention.
Books are art. Things can be so hot they're cold.
So they just start beating the piss out of the AC unit.
Books are art. Temperature doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, books are art. Temperature is subjective.
So Jake and Marco are looking for a ship to get off the mothership, and Marco is like, I'm not leaving without my mom. You know how I know he said that? Because he says it 6 more times in the next minute and a half.
Oh, that's how you know.
That's how I knew. It's, you know, it's subtlety in this show, you know? You gotta be able to read between the lines, because there's a lot going on that they don't explicitly say.
I kind of can't believe that he thought he could save his mom. Like, just the situation they're in. They're in outer fucking space. And him thinking, like, he could do anything to save this alien inside his fucking mom. It's so unbelievable as an audience member.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's like, especially because the entire, like, premise of this show is them realizing, like, wait, we can't stop these Yerks who are infesting all these people. And, like, he's like, we can help my mom, though, right? It's like, no, nah, dude. Have you not been paying attention for the last couple months?
It's
we
like,
can't do
You
shit.
dumb, stupid bitch.
Jake
Little
literally talks
dumb
to him and is
fucking
like,
moron.
You stupid bitch.
just, if you save yourself, then we can save your mom later. And Marco's like, I don't fucking care about that. And
I'm not leaving without her,
He does
Jake.
his little, like, slow stroll through the ship for a little bit until there's a noise behind him. And it's just Jake following him.
Yeah.
Who convinces him to get onto the ship, and then they leave.
Not before being chased by more plaid jumpsuit people with flashlights.
Bunch of jumpsuit guys. Jump them.
And,
I hate this show.
I'm with you.
Well, but now they're on the ship, which is
but
great.
don't worry. We get to see the ship now.
Now they can, like, try and leave the ship and get it off of the pool to try and go back to Earth. And they're going to use that with the power of the volume dial.
Oh, my lord.
It was the sound guy, like, was on vacation, and they just forgot to get a prop ready for this scene, so they just used his soundboard.
It's literally just a straight up editing soundboard.
I think I saw AUX labeling on one of the
I am
buttons.
almost 100%
There
sure.
was literally just like squiggles made with Sharpie on some of them.
Yeah.
So, but also the thing that really struck me was like it's English. Like it's not even. They didn't even try to make it look like alien language. It was just like select, like track 1, track 2. It's like,
there
what
was
are you
definitely
doing?
a couple of like aux buttons too.
Oh,
And, like,
God.
you know, all those pre-programmed bits with the slidings thing. He had a couple different pre-programmed, and then they just kept hitting them so that the sliders would, like, move to different positions really erratically. And, man, it was so
They're like,
intense.
And Marco is like, I beat you in Space Invaders all the time. Let me do it. I hate this show.
But then it gets even better, because then we cut back to Cassie and Rachel, who are now hanging out with Axe in the barn, telling Axe to beam a thought speak message from Earth into space to tell them how to run the ship.
might I add that Axe looks like he took an entire sheet of acid the day before, and his eyes are so fucking wide. He is like, Cassie, why do you have 9 heads?
His pupils, like, you can't even see any iris.
Shit.
His pupil is dilated like goatsy. It's
He is
ridiculous.
so terrified right now.
Goatsy? What kind of analogy is that?
Oh, it's the
Dilated
best
like
kind.
goatsy. That's a fucked up thing to say.
So right before Axe beams his message, Visser 3 and Visser 1 are like, oh no, the Andalite bandits, they fucking escaped again. And Visser 3 is like, let's fire on the ship. And Visser 1 says, no, what's better? More hosts, obviously. Let's get them to return to us. So Visser 3 just tries to intimidate speech.
Also, Visser 1 reminds us of that disc that we haven't
right.
talked about in a while.
That's why. The disc that only an Andalite can double click to open.
But apparently
I
it's a
guess.
specific Andalite.
And they don't know which one, so maybe it's one of the ones on the ship.
If it helps at all, we don't know either, Visser 1, so...
So Visser 3 is like, come back, pathetic Andalites. And they don't. And he's so mad that his great plan didn't work.
So that's how Axe, like, he's like, I can hear them, they're really far away. And then he beams his thought speak, all while sitting on a bale of hay, fucking horrified.
Just like gazing at a darkness only he can see. The eldritch horrors from the acid tormenting him as Cassie and Rachel are like leaning in.
I don't think you're allowed to say Eldritch Horrors. I think just Braden has to say that.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
sorry, right.
that's
God,
copyright.
now I owe you
Yeah.
$5. Damn it.
Son of a bitch.
That's Brandon
Took
eating
my
your money.
intellectual property.
Yes.
So Axe beams a thought speak to Marco and Jake, and essentially he's like, all right, you need to hit the button with the squiggles.
No, he says, you see the red button with the squiggle on it? And Marco's like, yeah, and he hits it. And Axe says, don't hit that one. It just controls the lights. There's a button directly below that you should hit. And it's like, oh my god.
And like Braden said, this is literally, he's like, there's a button with a squiggle on it. It's literally just a piece of masking tape with a Sharpie squiggle on it.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Yeah.
Holy
Like,
shit.
it was torn masking tape. You can see, like, the rough edges. It's so bad.
It's the worst.
Tessa and I have been in and made student films.
Yeah.
If somebody had come up, and on the podcast, we've mocked many a person we went to school with. If somebody tried to pull this shit, you would still be hearing about it. That person who did that would have heard about it by now, and they would be internet bullied by our audience right now.
Like, just... like, they just had no budget. Everybody running this production was interns. Except for the professional lizard wrangler. He was the only one who got paid all day,
Well, no,
I
also
think.
the guy who licensed that like Battlestar Galactica footage from when they were into it.
Also that.
What were you gonna say, Brandon?
Just a bunch of, like, super high Canadians.
I mean,
As opposed to us now.
it's legal there, so aren't they all high all the time?
You're goddamn right. So, by pressing the button directly underneath the light button, it opens a secondary tray with 2 identical buttons. At which Axe says, press one of those, it will activate the automated guidance system to get you either to the Yerk home planet or to Earth. Which, many questions here. 1, why are there only 2 buttons? Why is one of them the Yerk? Why one of them's the Yerk planet? Why is the other Earth? Why are they identical?
Yeah, also, why is everything so complicated, but the autopilot is just one button?
No. Here's the thing. They smell different.
Okay. They feel different to palps. If you got palps, they feel different.
Your
Yeah.
palps.
Get close, because one will smell of blueberries, and one will smell of oranges.
coconuts.
No,
need to
they're
press the one with
alien,
blueberry.
you fool. They're not blueberries. They're like
Snozberries?
berries.
Ew.
At least that's the closest translation we have.
A really dumb part
Yeah.
too is Axe says, okay, these buttons will activate the automated guidance system. And then in the barn, Cassie kind of swats him. Is like, come on, Axe, English, please. And he's like, oh, they're the auto drive system.
Autopilot system.
Like,
And it's
literally
like-
everyone knows what automatic piloting means.
Oh,
Automatic guidance system is
Also-
not that techno babble.
there's a line about, like, you must find the Z-Space conspiratory extra expedite button. Look for one with a squiggly line on it. Don't press that.
Fuck.
It's so stupid. But then, of course, they don't know which button is the one to the Yerk planet and which one is the one to Earth.
So Marco is just like, Jake, you press one. So they just press one.
No, Jake first turns to Marco and says, no, Marco, you press it. I trust you. Like that means anything in this moment.
Yeah.
You got a 50-50 chance.
Yeah. So they press one, and the ship flies away, and both the Visitors are very mad.
Because
And
their great plan of bullying didn't work.
we cut to the barn. Good thing that the fucking ship happened to land in a swamp near the barn. So Jake and Marco walk in, look like they were just into Bukkake and Shrek Swamp.
Oh, the episode ends with Marco coming home, and his dad has... Oh, first his dad leads him in with his eyes
Right.
closed. And then, he's painted everything. But he's glued a frame around this little hand of a turkey. But
Oh my
he
God.
glued the frame on the turkey. Like, part of its beak is being cut off, because Marco's dad is really shitty at framing.
We didn't talk about the blood turkey. Did we talk about the blood turkey in the earlier?
It wasn't mentioned about it being a blood turkey, just that it was a hand turkey at, like...
It looks
with-
like a bloody handprint on the wall.
And like the hand is the exact same size as Marco's hand now, and they tried to say it was like done 5 years ago or something.
You remember when you did this when you were 6 and you had the hands of a teenager? It was freaky as shit. Fuck.
Yeah.
And that covers the leader part too, right there.
Well, their one little plot point is that Marco tells Jake in private, don't tell anybody else that my mom is Visser 1. Also, while they're standing in the barn alone, covered in slime, talking about this, like, don't tell anybody my mom is Visser 1, Marco and Jake just, like, keep looking at each other's lips and back up to their eyes. And it's like, why? What method acting is this that you're giving make-out face to each other?
Obviously, you've never been a male with a male friend in the game.
It's true.
When me and Brayden are just alone together, we just stand like 1 inch apart, and I can see sweat forming on his upper lip.
That's another thing. Everyone gets so sweaty so fast in this show.
They must have had a
God.
very warm set.
Or they made it warm.
Oh.
Ugh. You saying all these teens were fucking?
Yeah. You're goddamn right I am. Mostly because they weren't teens.
Did you guys think Eugene Lipinski, the Visser 3 actor, looked younger in this one? I thought he looked like pretty dapper in the close-ups.
His forehead wasn't as, like, wrinkled and fiery, and I think that's just because he was distracted thinking about cockroach crackers and, like, how he can market it.
How they were just delicious. I mean, I hated this, so I have nothing to add to this fucking terrible shit.
If it helps at all, this is probably one of the better episodes, I'd say.
Oh my, just because of how boring it was?
Yeah, what was good about it exactly,
What was
Jared?
better about it than, like...
they were in space. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you got me there.
They weren't just like, in the barn or in the barn. That's pretty much the only other fucking spot this show takes place in.
The only bugs in it were the only animals were fucking lizards and cockroaches. That's not what I come to Animorphs for.
Fair enough.
Anyways.
I mean, like, we got like one of the big twists kind of thing.
Yeah,
That was kind of dope.
Visser 1 was finally revealed,
Yeah.
which, just takes a little bit of time sometimes, because we covered this in literally book 5 in the book series, Marco's first book.
The audience should also know that we all watched this together, and as soon as the episode started, Tessa was like, "Oh, this is the episode where we find out that Marco's mom is alive and is Visser 1." And Jared did not know that. God damn
I
it!
didn't actually.
I know.
I thought you did! Oh,
No.
I'm sorry!
Whatever.
I was
it's
so
honestly-
angry.
I know how this series ends.
Like, I've told you enough about how the book is. that I didn't,
I don't think that was...
I haven't cared
maybe
about.
you did tell me, and I just zonked out. But, I don't know. You tell me a lot of stuff about Animorphs, and
You just don't pay
about
attention to
about
any of it.
20% of it sticks.
Nice.
And then the rest is just like, I'll watch the show. That'll cover it.
Oh, of course.
I did the same thing with the Harry Potter books, and look at me now.
Yeah, he's the biggest Potterhead I've ever met.
Yeah.
What house are you again, babe?
The second one.
Nice.
That one.
All right.
The second one, and they are chronological, I believe, as a Pottermore expert. Yeah.
Of course they are.
Brooke Nevin's acting is like every high school drama class ever where the teacher pulls out, okay, here are beats. Like, every line should have intention. What do you want? And she's like changing her intention with literally every single line, which you literally don't have to do because that's way too much work.
Yeah.
But, oh man, she's trying so hard, and it's just not very good.
She's
bad.
like the embodiment of, sweetie, in acting.
Right? Basically.
Nice.
Sweetie, you're trying really hard.
We're pushing it for time, so why don't we all give our predictions
we are.
for the next episode in the TV series, which is just called Tobias.
Oh, great.
We better have Tobias in it, because Tobias wasn't in this episode at all, and I love Tobias.
I hope it's just Tobias, Morgan Freeman style, narrating his entire day, but nothing happens. Just
It's like
He
book
flies
3.
around and he eats some mice and then
Yeah,
comes
he just like
around.
flies. That's my prediction. He flies around and he eats animals, and he like lands on people's window and is like, "Hey, Jake, what are you doing today?" And then like Jake is like, "Oh, I'm doing a thing that birds can't hang out at. Sorry." And then he goes to Rachel, same thing.
yeah, the anti-bird rally downtown.
Fuck birds. I'm gonna go hang out at the fuck birds.
I'm gonna go
benefit
to that city council meeting where they're gonna put a giant net over the entire city.
concert. Glass dome. No birds ever come in.
No birds in, no
ever get
birds out.
It's like book 3, but all of the interesting bits cut out, and it's just Tobias's despair. Which, I mean, can be interesting, but it's also just really heartbreakingly sad.
It's just gonna be Tobias like willing really hard to try and turn back into a human for 22 minutes. It's just human. Nope.
Because they have to use the actor, right? Like, the actor needs to be used. They're on contract. Like, he's... like, how are they going to get... fucking stupid... God damn it, this should not be a live-action show. Anyways. Jared, you do stuff on the internet. Where can we find that stuff?
I have done stuff on the internet. You can find me at collectivelegacy.org under the Two Nerds in a Basement header. You can also find me on Spotify. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Two Nerds in a Basement across the board there. We just did... I don't know when this is releasing, so I don't know what episode we just did. But we just did a new episode, I'm sure. So go give that a listen.
Tessa? You know what I want to ask.
Sorry.
Oh, do you actually?
We are not prepared.
You can find more of our stuff on our podcast page at collectivelegacy.org or on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, or Facebook if you like your data being stolen and sold to Nazis.
But you,
I do.
You can also remember to subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe leave us a little review ski. And if you don't, we're gonna fucking eat cockroaches on your Facebook page. And that's what the Nazi data collectors will know you as, is a cockroach cracker eater.
Or even worse, we won't eat cockroaches on there and make you really upset because you want us to eat that cockroach, but we're not going to do it.
Yeah, hot and cold, that's us.
If you don't give us 5 stars on our iTunes, we'll give you 5 stars on yo ass.
Okay. You can show your support for our show at our Patreon page, patreon.com/DORKBAJIR.
We offer special bonuses for patrons, like access to our Discord server, Animorphs essays written by us.
And some of the patrons that are Dork-Bajir level or higher, we give a fancy little shout out with an Animorph style title.
Which I'm really bad at, so I apologize.
Big shout out to new patron, Elamist, the title of hopefully an upcoming TV episode.
Ace Chaves, the cockroach cracker.
Andrew Vila, the cracker joke.
Michael Armenta, the not the Elamist, because that's the other guy.
Greg Della Posta, the Cracker King.
Martha Urquhart, that basket of daisies Visser One would not stop caressing.
Zachary Vaudo, the fern he was mean to before.
Anyanka, the original creator of the morphing sensor.
Mariah Wamby, the sensitive places.
Steam Driven, the very hot and or very cold pipe.
Max Anicut, the Mandela effect.
Shanna, you can make that jump, Cassie. You can.
Nice. I like that Jared kind of gets it. A little bit, but not enough. And
Not
that makes him
even
the perfect
close.
guest.
I hope you know that I don't know what I'm doing.
For the Fanimorphs, my name is Mikhail, the host.
I'm Tessa the expert.
And I'm Brayden, the manga guy.
Yeah, classic.
And I'm Jared. I want another nap.
And this has been Fanimorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles. You like this voice?
Ring that bell. Ring that bell.
Ring the bell. Sing a song. Eat a hot dog.
And a cracker.
Yeah, tying it all together.
What do you want to eat right now? Jinx!
I'm Mitch.
And I'm Sophie. And this is
We Watch Food.
a podcast all about the food we like to watch.
We'll talk all about the best, the craziest, and the tastiest TV, movies, and YouTube channels.
Not to mention trendy food fads and sumptuous food trivia.
Plus, we end every episode with a recipe from one of us.
So join us every Saturday for a new episode and a new insight into what makes us watch so much food.
You can find us at collectivelegacy.org, as well as a bunch of other awesome podcasts.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at We Watch Food.
And on Twitter at We Watch Food Pod. So I've been Mitch.
I'm Sophie.
Bye-bye.
Bye!
Brought to you by
Collective Legacy.
a podcast network.